Yeah, hi all. Welcome to another session of mock interviews with Ankit Jain. So this is me, Ankit Jain. So I'm a technical architect at an MNC. I'm editing certified. I'm active in Salesforce events. This is my LinkedIn URL. So this is a QR code for that. So you can feel free to scan and connect with me. So to get updated on the future session, either you can connect with me on LinkedIn where or follow me on the LinkedIn, or you can join this WhatsApp group that we have around more than 850 members from across multiple countries where we share the technical content as well as our learning, and also we have a discussion, and I also post updates around any upcoming session that is there. So today we'll be covering some of the miscellaneous interview questions. So the very thing basic that starts with is around the relationship between account and contact. So we can create a contact without an account. It is a lookup relationship with cascade delete equal to true. The next thing is around what's the means what is the special behavior of amount field and opportunity. So opportunity amount on the opportunity amount field is becomes read only when you have the line items with them. Otherwise, it behaves like a regular field. So initially, I created a new opportunity, like I'm creating it right now by the name mock, and then by some amount, say 100. Okay. And second, provide the account name. So here I was able to add in the amount field. But later, like earlier it was editable, but now as soon as I start adding the product line items, that field will become read only. So this is a special behavior. So someone asks you about what is special about opportunity amount field, then you will have to mention that this is the catch. So this was the demo of that. So I'm stopping the recording. Yes, yes. Yeah, the next question that comes around is on the sales code is around the forecasting. What is forecasting? Forecasting is actually predicting like how much revenue I would be able to get. For that, what Salesforce does is like for the opportunity value you're creating any stage, it asks you like what the different forecast categories you want to categorize that into. So it's like best case, most likely, and there are a couple of other values as well that you have, like how much you are committing, how much you are most likely, what is the best case, what is in the open pipe, what is in the pipeline. So you can set different forecast categories based on that. Based on that, like either you can have cumulative forecast rollups or you can have single forecast category rollups, and you get a good report dashboard out of it, and that's how you use it in forecasting. So at least you should be able to tell about what the forecast category field of the opportunity while you are explaining this forecasting feature. Okay. The next round is like what is a sales process? So sales process is the process by which the sales rep through this means work on the opportunity. So on the opportunity we define the sales process. So on the sales process, what we do is like we eventually add the different set values of the stage name. Stage name is the API name. The regular label is stage. So on the stage, whatever different values we have, these are tagged to different sales processes. Like in for opportunity, suppose you have to create a new record type, so you will have to define like what is the sales process for that. So accordingly, your different values you would be able to set for stage name. So business wise, you should know like what is a if someone asks you like what is the sales process, so you should be able to tell it on the code like yes, this is called a sales process. Any questions so far? So this thing is around Sales Cloud, and now we go to Service Cloud. So what is actually the core power of Service Cloud? So Service Cloud's core power is around the case management and account and contact management, omni-channel. So these are one few of the few important features of Service Cloud. And what are the different ways that we can create a case? So in Salesforce, we can either create the case by the directly through the console through the new button, email to case. There's another feature, question to case, and we also have email to case, and then web to case also we have. So these are a few of the ways that you can create a case in Salesforce through the UI. Obviously, a customization I'm talking about out of the box, not on the customization part of it. So what are limits around web to case? So web to case, the limit is 5,000 cases per day. Means it is a 24-hour limit. Like it's actually, I would not say day, because day you don't know like how it calculates, gets calculated. So I would say like for 24 hours, 5,000 cases you can raise. So this is a simple scenario around web to case, and then email to case. Email to case, how does email to case work? So what happens is like when you create a email to case, whatever the email from whom the email is being sent, what Salesforce does is that it does a comparison. Like on that contact, if that there is only single contact that is being written with that email ID, it populates that. If there are multiple, it would not populate everything. Or even if there is no contact matching to that email address, also it would keep it empty. So that's how it works. It populates the contact field. But if suppose your contact does not exist, then you can at least get that in the web email field that we have on the case page or case detail page. You can add that and you would be able to see that. Any questions so far? So we have another question around like what happens after the lead gets converted. So after lead is being converted, we have it gets converted into account, contact, and opportunity. So opportunity we want to create or not, that is optional to us. We can also do the lead conversion through the Apex class as well. There's a method around that. So we have the lead convert class where we have, and that is also DML, mind you, like. So we pass the parameter around like what is the lead that you want to pass, and there you can have different methods.
So
Like if
one question I'm having that what happened with that lead record after getting converted? Would it be visible on the lead object or not?
see,
Or it becomes read only?
it's a good question actually. So what happens is like the lead record is still there, but on the UI, Salesforce removes that. Reason being like lead is to denote like the data until it's converted. If the data is converted, you already have that information on the account and contact. So there's not much worth keeping that lead record and showing it to user. But if you want to, if you would check to query any lead record, you will be able to see that. Let's see that in live in action. 1 minute.
But Ankit, I think that in classic interface, when we searching that lead ID in the URL, it will show that record.
That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing to that. Through the query or through the URL hacking, you would always see that. That's what I'm also saying the same thing.
Okay. Okay.
So let me just state it.
In class in Lightning, I think it will not show. In classic, it will
In
show.
classic or lightning, everywhere it would show. Like suppose this is a lead, okay?
Okay.
It's working contacted. This is the ID I have, okay? Now I'm converting it. Let it create everything new, okay? Doesn't really matter. Okay. I won't be able to see that if I search it. Not open lead. Today's lead. But directly if I hit it, I would definitely see that. It does a redirect automatically, but if you do a query.
Okay. But in Lightning, it will not redirect contact. It will show that lead record.
See, the record is still there, but it's not worth it to show it on the UI. That's why Salesforce says like, don't go to that record, but instead go to that contact or go to that records which are actually useful for now. So, but it's a good question, and people do have a very basic doubt around that. So it's good that you asked. Okay, so we covered around the lead conversion. How do we do that? Actually, there is another feature of web to lead. So, what is the limitation around web to lead? So, web to lead, you can only have the per day 500 uh, leads only you could create. 500 within 24 hours. So, like whenever you're pitching that to the client, tell it very clearly. Otherwise, you will have to go with custom APIs and or you can use the UI API to do insertion of the lead records. So apart from that, no other question on the. Do you have any other question? Yeah. So the next question, but still important, is around transaction control. See, what is transaction control related to database? So transaction control is basically how you're able to handle like the rollbacks and save points. So if someone asks you like what is transaction control, how does Salesforce do that? So tell them about that. See what Salesforce does is like if suppose due to some reason you want partial insert or and you want to do rollback or have the customization like custom handling of the transaction, and you can use transaction control. So if suppose if a transaction is failed, then you can call the database.rollback and you can pass the save point as the parameter like that instance so that it would roll back to that particular save point where it was created in. So is any questions on that? The next question is around what is the difference between SOQL and SOSL? SOQL, I know what data to search. I also know where it is there in. So what I do is like using the I can query from the original object, like say case, but I can also query from like the case account of that case or account from that sorry contact from that case. So from the related objects as well, I can do the comparison on the where clause, and it would give me the results, and I would get 50,000 records in the query by default. And for SOSL, what happens is like it searches all over the whatever objects you specify. It searches there, and then it returns only 2,000 records. It's fast. Like the syntax is also a bit different. Like here you have the first starts with find, and then you mention what are the objects to be returned, what are the different fields you want to return. So performance wise, if anybody asks what is better, then you will have to say SOSL. The next question is around what is SOQL injection. So see, SOQL injection is actually what happens is whatever the user is being passed, you are taking the user for granted, and whatever he types in, you are executing it in the query. So let me just show that with an example. 1 minute, let me just share my screen. Basically, what happens in the SOQL injection is like we don't do any sanitization around like what are the HTML tags, or sorry, not any SQL related tags are there in your query. We remove that and we use dynamic binding. So we have two options of achieving that to make sure that the code is security wise better, like you use string.escape single quote, and also otherwise you can go with dynamic binding like using the colon operator. That is one way of securing your code. The next thing on the SOQL is around like what is with user mode, with system mode. So with user mode is a better version of, I would say, with security enforced, where your object field level and record level accesses are being checked by Salesforce when you're doing the query. The same was achievable with security enforced as well, but the problem with that is like you can't, it doesn't work well with the polymorphic queries like who ID, what ID, and also it's like it would only with security enforced you were getting error only for on the first error itself, it's getting skipped. You won't know like what are the different fields that are there in. But here with user mode, you get like if you can iterate over the different fields which you don't have the access. So that way it's much more useful. The next question is around what is the security model of Salesforce? So in Salesforce, there are three, its categorization is done at three level. First is object level, second is field level, and third is record level. Object and field level is controlled by your profile permission sets and permission set groups. Record level, the baseline is your OWD. OWD is your org by default. If I'm not the owner of that record, what things I would be able to see in the org, it denotes that. On the apart from OWD, we have like roles. So on the object for standard objects, we have the grant access using hierarchy as true. But for custom objects, we have option whether to want to have the access by roles or not. So that is controlled by your role hierarchy thing, grant access using hierarchy. The third is your sharing rule. So there are three types of sharing rule: ownership based, criteria based, and third is your guest sharing rule. Now, after restriction, sharing rules, we have something known as restriction rule. Like due to some reason, we are not able to make the OWD private, but we still want to have that restriction. Then we go with restriction rules. After restriction rules, we have like if the OWD is public read only or private, then we have option like on the record level, we have a button of sharing. It is a manual sharing, like where we can share a record with a particular person. If we want more kind of customization, like we want more complex sharing calculation, so we go with Apex managed sharing. So it's sometimes known as object share account, object share as well. So in that we have multiple fields. One denotes the record ID, like which record you want to share. User or group ID, like which user or group you want to give the access to. Third is the row cause or epic sharing reason, like what is the reason you are giving the access to the particular person. The next is field is around the access level, like whether you want to give read, write, or edit, whatever you want, you can specify that. So these were around, but apart from this, there's another concept of teams. We have account teams, opportunity teams, and case teams. So for a particular record, we want a particular set of people to act as a team and get access to those specific records. So we call it teams concept. Apart from that, we have something known as implicit sharing as well. Like when we have access to account, we get the read access of the related contacts as well. And suppose we have read access to contacts, we get read access to the parent account as well. So this is something known as implicit sharing. Now programmatic sharing like comes into picture when we have more sophisticated requirement. Like suppose on the you have a user lookup field and you want to whenever that lookup, whoever is selected in the lookup, you want to give access to them at runtime, you can go with Epic's for that duration. So by default, like if no row cause is mentioned or if no epic sharing is mentioned, you have the default value of manual. The another interview question is around what is the use word, why, what will happen if we use the manual as the sharing clause? So the problem that would come in is like suppose the owner of that record changes, then whoever or the other people who got access because the record being manual, they would lose the access. That's why it's recommended that you have your own record or sharing reason. Another very important question is around profile permission set. What is that one thing at least which we can do with profile but not with permission set? So it's around your login IP ranges and your login hours. So if someone asks you in the interview, you can mention that. Although there are multiple other things as well, but those are also available in the permission set, like your object level settings, access, default tab. So, but this is the answer. Means what happens like you get in the permissions that you can specify what are different tabs that are there. You can want to give the access. At profile level, you can set the default values for your record type. So that is the advantage. You can means I would prefer talking about login IP hours because there's not a single feature that actually matches to that in the permission set. So shall we go with the next question? Yeah. So tell me like mates, what would happen like if what is actually large data volume? And why should we be concerned about that? So if this kind of question comes to you, you'll have to say like in your org, like there has been a lot of data. Ideally, it said like if like more than 2 million records, it's like a large data volume. And why people are concerned because when such a huge amount of data is therein, you get performance degradation. Performance degradation in terms of time to load the list views, loading that page, and as well as your queries would time out. So this is your large data volume. So to resolve that, there are multiple ways that are therein. First is you have to best solution would be to move with that to off platform, or other way that you can go for is your skinny tables. See, what would happen is like the skinny tables is it would create a separate table that you will have to get it enabled from the Salesforce executives. So in that there will be around 200 fields approximate, where you will tell them say the Salesforce team like these are the fields that I usually use in my queries or my reports dashboard or in my list views. So what would happen like that table will be treated with only those fields, and now whenever the data needs to be shown instead of the actual table, this skinny table will be used. Note it's actually a denominal form of the data, so there will be no lookup, no master detail thing on that. It will be plain fields. So it's around like large data volume. Another related question coming to like the performance degradation is around what are the ways like means what in the query, what are the custom means how you can provide indexing to your query. So if someone asks you this question, you will have to just tell them around what are the different fields. So like by default, the lookup and master detail lookup fields are your indexed by default. Another field that is indexed is around your system out stamp. Another field that will be indexed is your external ID. These are the few fields that are indexed by default. And other than that, if you want any custom field to be indexed, you can ask Salesforce to create a custom index for that. So another question, the interview question is around ownership skew and data skew. So ownership skew happens when a particular person owns more than 10,000 records. So what can be done now? So what you can do to make sure like your performance degradation does not happen is like either you distribute those records, or another thing that you can do for is you have it at the very top of that person at the very top of the hierarchy, and you don't have any role on that. So this way you could save yourself from performance degradation as a result of the ownership skew. For data skew, what you can do like data skew is also like for a particular object, like say XYZ object. There are around 10,000 ABC objects record. So then it is a like data skew, and you will have to actually get it distributed across multiple records so that the performance degradation does not happen.
Ankit, I have
So the next topic that we'll be covering around is few of the JavaScript and LWC related questions. Like, what is a shadow DOM? So shadow DOM is actually a DOM that is isolated, like it would be adding as a regular DOM element, but underneath that DOM, like what are the elements that are there in, you won't be able to apply directly any CSS, or you won't be able to access those elements. So it would be kind of hidden from the outside world. So security wise, it's considered a good feature. So this is your shadow DOM. The next is what is the light DOM. So light DOM is like your regular DOM, like you have the head elements and other elements that are there that you added in a particularly any website. So those different DOM elements means whatever are those regular elements that you have, to distinguish it as other DOM elements, it's also called as light DOM as well. Any questions so far? Yeah, the next question is around what are promises? So promises is actually callbacks. Like once a particular function is being called, then we know like after means since it's us, we don't know when that would get executed. So to get that, we get the promises. Like in JavaScript, we have like a dot then as the very common use of a promise. Other than that, we have async await as well. So these are the two basic type of promises that we see in JavaScript. Apart from this one, the other important question is around your sorry, not around the JavaScript, but around the LWC is what are the different decorators? So we have @var, @API, and @track. So what is this now? Since all the elements are reactive, what is the use case for to use @track? You'll have to say it very clearly, like @track. By default, all elements are reactive, but few elements like few variables which are like a custom data type or it's array type or as objects, they still are not reactive by default. So you'll have to make them reactive. So this is around that. The other scenario-based question is, suppose from the server you are getting like 100 records, and in your data table you want to show only 20 records. Like suppose you are returning ID and age, and you want to restrict like to show only those records with where the age is greater than 25. So what you can do in the while to do so? So the answer to that is like since you will have to do an imperative calling while you're doing that, and when the data result is you are getting that data, you can use the filter function in JavaScript. In the filter function, you get a callback like what is the criteria that you want to put in, and accordingly you can get this data, and then you can use that in your data table. Another question is around like in the Lightning data table, what are different parameters that we pass? So in the Lightning data table, we have to specify what are the columns, what is the data, and there's another new enhancement that has come up. It's around wrapping the text, like whether you want to wrap it or not. So this is a bit about the Lightning data table. So any questions so far?
Ankit, that dot then is also considered as a promises.
Yes, dot then is a very common promise.
Okay.
Promise, you can consider it as any kind of callback that you get when the function is being called. Under that also there are various kinds of if there are multiple promises, there are two conditions that are or two ways that or two methods are available, like promises dot all, promises dot raise. So that is also another interview question. What is the difference between promises dot all and promises dot raise? Which we have already covered it in the previous videos, but now like there are a few. So in Experience Cloud, suppose what are different kinds of licenses that you have related to customer community. So in the customer community, you have two licenses, customer community and customer community plus. And what is the difference between these two? So in the customer community, you can share the data only through the sharing set. But in customer community plus, you get access to plus license, which makes you which gives you portal roles, and through that you're able to add people to the public group, and due to public group you can add them in the sharing rules, or you can add the you can use the programmatic sharing as well. Also, you get more access to more number of objects as well. You get access to reports and dashboard as well. Another interview question is around, like, if there's a page and I want to show different for different people that home page should be looking differently. How do we achieve that? So the answer to that is your audiences. Like, you can set an audience with a particular criteria. Like, suppose you can specify, like, for a particular custom publication only this one. This is my audience, and accordingly you can adjust that. Yeah, few important questions that on the core platform is around custom setting, custom metadata. What is the impact on the test classes? So in your test classes, custom settings would not be available, so you can create that. For the custom metadata records, you can't insert in the test class, so they would be already available by default. The other part is like the other difference that we have on custom setting, custom metadata is like, on the custom setting, you can have a different value per profile per user, and at org level as well, you can set a default value as well. For customer data, the record value would remain same, irrespective like who is the person viewing at that. So the next interview question is around, if there's a SOQL query, how do you make sure like its performance is increased? So while doing any query, you can check like you query only the fields that are needed in. Second, in your where clause, you have to make sure like you're not adding any not equal to null condition, because if you make condition not equal to null, that would reduce the performance drastically. Another thing is around, don't use the formula field in your where clause, because formula fields would increase the time, because the Salesforce has to do the calculate the formula field value every time, which could return in reducing the performance. Third is like use the index fields. Index fields, either you have like a lookup of master detail field, or you have externally that you can use in the query. So these are the few ways like which you can increase the SOQL queries performance. Query the limited fields that you need.